when your country or when your city is at war, all of the money of the city or the country goes into buying weapons. And so the people suffer. And people aren't educated. And that's how, if you're going to talk about the government, that's how the government can control the people and thinking, oh, we must stand for a certain point of view. And I think that's what I learned about religion. You know, the people kind of rely on religion, and maybe the religious groups are not that neutral, and things get nasty.
Okay, would anyone else like to add to that?
Yes, I don't know if this has anything to do with qualitative statements, but...
We can forget the qualitative statement thing.
Okay, forget about it. But, for example, when you see on the news something happened recently, like a cheating woman was stoned or something, killed in a brutal way, okay. So even if we agree that that woman should be punished, do we still have to use that brutal way? Or I say, so the one thing is that according to this religion, it's legal, it's legitimate to kill a person for doing something that is not, it's not really a crime, you know? But there's not enough to kill her, but also to kill her in a very brutal way. So
That may be. Okay, I know totally what you're talking about, because actually just in what was it, there was a woman who was actually raped and then killed because she was raped, because she had sex outside of marriage. But yes, that might be okay. In that country, they have a legal system which interprets the book so specifically that that's their only way that they can do it. But in another country like Turkey or possibly Indonesia, okay, I know Indonesia's bad, they might just whip her. They're not going to stone her to death, right? So it's not necessarily the religion, but it's country-specific how the religion is applied or how the doctrine is applied in the legal system.
I mean, even in Singapore, right? If you do certain things that is bad for the society, you get whipped. But that's not according to religion.
But I mean, I'm not sure if I'm taking away from what you're saying. Did you want to be more specific?
I don't know. Just an example. It's like a comparison, like other religions don't do that.
Yeah, it comes down to sorry. Well, religions are political. I mean, like, we're not speaking about like a separate thing on the state and the religion, right?
Some countries, the religion is controlling the state.
Well, affirmatively they are separate in loads of countries, in the West as well. But you can't deny that the culture of that country has been, like, colored by the dominant religion, right? So, and religious authorities also interfere in politics. That's, you can't really, like politicians give statements that, reveal their religious inclination, their beliefs and stuff, They mention God. Well, that's a religious statement and he's a politician, right? And churches church, when I say generally any kind of like religious institution is trying to have a political role because that's how they can influence the population and stuff. So yeah, that's another thing, how much the law is in compliance with the religion, right?
In Canada right now we're actually looking to outlaw polygamy for immigrants. If you're polygamous, then you have to divorce the rest of your wives before you can immigrate to Canada. So that, I don't know, is that like
It's cultural assimilation, right?
Okay, but that's a whole Canadian issue thing, but I think that's the religion influence still, despite the fact that in Canada, I have no idea which politicians are religious, where in the States, you definitely know they're just like, yeah, God, I'm here for God, or I'm here for country, and all that stuff. I have no idea which Canadian politicians. No church, no
a man to have 5 wives. Okay, so it
I
doesn't.
well, okay, that's a whole
You know,
other story. But
So it's pretty complex, you know, because I think that decision is from human rights perspective, because this is like the logic. I'm not saying what I think. If a law allows a man to have 5 wives but not a woman to have 5 husbands, that in a way discriminates the women. So that's a discriminative law, and Canada supports equality, so they won't allow discriminative law. You see what I mean? That's
honestly, as long as everybody's consenting, I'm cool. But I think it's, I don't know.
like the
if it
point
is
is
so
like,
much.
okay, so it's not your business
It's
what
our
he did in his own country, right?
Hmm?
That's your point. He might have 5 countries in Saudi Arabia, but who cares if he marries in Canada, right?
We recognize one marriage thing. That's it. That's why I didn't just say it like that.
So
Why?
you say they should allow them to have their wives, or what?
Sorry? Well, I wouldn't say they can immigrate with everybody. I mean, like all the stuff about we recognize one certificate. That's it. But it's to the point that if we find out you have other wives in your country, you're out of here.
In your own country.
Huh?
You
Even if you're
in
staying
your own
in
country.
their own country. Like if you're there just to study or whatever, you're kicked out.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think, and this actually does come in with a bunch of other laws, like no honor killing laws. This is all coming in at the same thing, which is
It's happening in the United States right now too.
Yeah,
Totally.
which is, I don't really, I think there's an anti-Islam thing in the whole thing, as is, I mean, these are, we don't, murder is not okay. So why do we have to say no honor killings? Murder is not okay in Canada. It doesn't matter why you are doing it. It's not okay.
Because it's
Why do we have to specify?
because there's a cult. There's a mood of fear about these religions. Like in the United States, it's like there are certain states that are banning Sharia law. Like that's the Sharia law is the law that allows you to punish the person who is raped because they must have done something to, they must have left their skin uncovered or something like that. Therefore, it's their fault. They need to be punished for that. Or like the person was raped and they had sex outside of marriage, so they're going against the religion. You've got to kill them. So they're like saying no Sharia law. We ban Sharia law. It just seems like such an idiotic thing to do. Like you're saying, it's like, no, you have laws already. You don't need to ban another country's law system. Because they're like afraid. The Muslims are coming. They're coming. Barack Obama's a Muslim. He's secretly Muslim, gay, married. Anyone who looks brown or has black hair on their chin must be a Muslim, or secretly, because they're not going to tell you, so they must be lying. And they're coming in and they're going to take over. It's like the Jews, like that. Oh, the Jews are coming to take over. Or they say it also the same thing. There's a gay agenda. The gay people are going to teach all of our kids to be gay. This isn't a comedy club, but...
If I could, I would say something about why specifically outlaw
honor killing.
honor killing. I think for the domestic audience, the non-honor killing audience, right, it just sort of affirms that the government is taking some action, like they're trying to maintain law, regardless of what the value of that action. But then for those people inside, I think that it's something specific to them. They don't call it murder. And we understand from our perspective, well, murder is pretty much any unlawful killing, etc. But, in their mind, honor killing isn't murder. I think there's a value to say to those communities, it's like, hey, in our country, in our culture, that's wrong, on this basis. And I think it's not so clear with the polygamy, polyamory, whatever else. I don't think it's like such a clear-cut issue, but at least with the murder, I think there's some value in being specific on that. It's kind of comedic. It seems a bit foolish, but language is about communicating to people in terms that they understand.
True. I think there's a precedent in our law already that honor does not exempt you from our murder laws.
Duels. That used to be the fashionable way to have honor killing, right? See you at dawn with sabers.
That's right. I don't like
Not so long ago. 200 years, talking about history, but 200 years ago, 150 years ago, honor killing was a fact of life in the Congress in the U.S.
So I think it boils down to the value of a human being, right? If his or her life can be taken away by another person or by law, like what do you have to do to be killed? That's what I'm interpreting. Public function.
Okay.
So we're saying honor killings are a deterrent for those who don't kill? Like with all the cameras everywhere, is it a deterrent for us to not do something that's unlawful? Or, and for the polygamy, I wonder if that's an acknowledged states and so forth, like how we deal with that, because polygamy, bigamy, seems like we have it, it's not lost throughout the regions, throughout the world, but it still exists amongst humans.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're so specific. What I don't like about laws, how specific they are, and like you can bring one monogamous wife as long as you divorce the rest. Like that's one monogamous. Like what is adultery not okay? Are we outlawing adultery? Is that what we're doing here? Like I mean, I think everybody at least has met somebody, talked to somebody that has mistress or mister, I guess.
Well,
we all know people that are doing this, but not so officially and in sneakier ways. So
I think Tim has a good point. I mean, if you think about these politicians sitting around in their meetings, well, they're majority white men. You know, there's not a lot of diversity, so there's not a lot of diversity of opinion. And once they agree that something has to be done, then that doesn't guarantee that it's going to be done the most intelligent way, right, or the best way. But I can understand that. I mean, like at least from an honor killing perspective, of we have to be very clear about the language, because just saying murder, you know, or unlawful killing is not the best way to talk about it. We need to put it in a language that they might understand. I don't think it's very well thought out, I think is my point. And especially when you have I'm not saying that all of these white men are religious, and I'm not even saying that they're all white or they're all men. I'm just saying that there's probably such a low sample rate in that group, such low difference between them, that they're not going to think about the best way to do it. You know, it always seems like the politicians are, you know, sort of missing half the point.
So what's happening in the business world, and I think is influencing the political world, is to have diversity team or board.
Right. A lot of places are doing that, like a group of women come in to counsel the men on how they can be more understanding of women's rights, or, I mean, that is a very common thing these days.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be counseling, it can be a sharing of ideas in a discussion, like what we're doing right now.
It's like trading.
Sorry?
I mean, it's like trade. I mean, sharing of ideas.
Yeah.
You trade with me what I have that you don't have, what you have that I don't have. That
Exchange opinions, backgrounds, experience.
that is supposed to be there.
But I mean, you're saying that that's what they should do. But the way that they're actually doing it is they actually like just have maybe one person to go in and teach a class. Don't use this language. This is not the language of inclusiveness. Don't say, women should use their balls more. Come on, women, think with your balls. Grow some balls.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's, from my point of view, it's a little bit aggressive. There was a campaign for a hashtag about women's rights. I forgot what it was about, but a lot of the influential women around the world was promoting it, including Sheryl Sandberg, Hillary Clinton, so on and so forth. There was a woman from the Islamic background, and sorry, I forgot the name, that she's very influential. And it reconciles around the world, but I think the majority would think it's a little bit taking it a little bit in the extreme.
You're talking like a lot of people call it militant feminism, something like that.
Feminism. I mean, what's the definition of feminism? Is it protecting your own rights that makes you a feminist, or the definition? I think right now is a little bit vague and have different interpretations.
Okay, so where are we going next?
We were talking earlier about that making these kind of qualitative statements is dangerous. And I guess I would take the counterpoint. I think that discussion is positive, and that even letting the guy you're talking about, Sam Harris, or those people, giving them a podium, giving anybody a podium, at least creates an opportunity for discussion. And I guess I don't really, want to, to come in and take the point of view that it's dangerous to make statements and that we can't deal with the consequences of talking about it.
No, you're absolutely right, and that's part of the reason why a place like the United States, or even in this case Taiwan, because we are in Taiwan and we can just go to a coffee shop and have free open discussion about whatever we want. That you're right, that is totally good. Yeah, okay. The reason I make that, I don't have faith in the supermajority of the people who live in the United States, especially those people who are in power. I think, just like this thing with Ebola recently. One person came to Ebola and then suddenly they wouldn't let students from every African country to come in to different schools. Or, there was Ebola in Texas, so some school in Connecticut, which is very far away, like as far away as South Africa to the place in Africa where there was Ebola. They were like, okay, well we had one of our teachers on summer vacation went to Tanzania, which is like on the other side of Africa. Well, we're not going to let her come teach this semester. I just really worry about the speed at which some of these things can be, turned from innocent into malignant. Am I using malignant the correct way? I totally agree with you. You're absolutely right. It is important to let everyone have a voice out in the open, so that those things can be discussed. I'm not trying to put down open, free speech and discussion. I just really worry, and that's why I wanted to get into talking about motivations, or at least motivations, right? I'm not saying that Sam Harris has the motivation to want to destroy Islam or something like that. But then what is the motivation? A lot of people would argue that his motivation is to get religious people to stop being religious, because that's what he wants. But is that what really needs to happen? Do religious people need to stop being religious? Okay, look. Religious people are always going to compare their religions. But do we really need scientists to get in on the game of comparing religions? Now, maybe it's not a question of need. Sure, they're able to do it, and we should support that ability for them to do that. I just worry about how easy it is for some people to interpret that. Okay, this is my main worry. Some governmental organization in the United States is going to say, look, the scientists even say it. The scientists say that Islam is the worst. Aren't you liberals always saying that we should go on the basis of the scientists? Let's go bomb them. I know it's slightly irrational. It's probably never going to happen. And in that in that way, the fear is not really necessarily justified. Anybody else?
Well, I guess they're always calling for the scientists because it's kind of like you need authority, right? I mean, if you're really religious, you look at your authorities within the religion, right? If you're kind of religious but not really total free, right? I mean, let's say you're a Christian or whatever. You read the newspaper or you read an article. You don't really question whether this journalist is Christian or Muslim, right?
Depending on the message that is put across, that's what's going to drive the
on
question.
the article, okay, right. But let's say it's irrelevant topic about whatever, you know. So, but it's kind of like, well, no matter what your religion is, you have to believe in science, right? Even though, you know, science, again, is not like ABC, done forever, right? I mean, even scientists between themselves don't agree on certain topics, right? But it's kind of like, you know, well, because it assumes objectivity, right? Because a scientist should be somehow objective, right? Because he bases his ideas, his opinion on some kind of research.
It's not an opinion necessarily. Scientists more based on facts and reality.
Yeah, but the facts are changing.
So
as
probably
well.
based on what he wrote about, or maybe
the
the message that he put across, that is based on the research findings that he has come out with.
Yes.
So
Yes.
scientists more believe in reality and then the physical form of how to prove how certain things work and why and how it does not work.
They are
This
also,
religion, on the other hand, actually will tell you the ethics more and the ethics and then the reason or the rationale behind all those things, but which necessarily doesn't have any facts or maybe proof at that instantly to prove that, well, just because this exists because of that.
yes,
So,
okay, that's what religion
well,
is based on belief, not on facts. That's the
not necessarily, yeah.
the core. Though science can be sort of religion, but my point was that actually it is important to question religion, not from the
And it's
outside.
okay to question
It's
religion,
important
why
to
not?
question religion from within religion.
Mostly depending on the idealism of that religion.
Just for the sake of, you know.
Yeah. So, well, I think today religion has been put in certain context that to make us to believe that, well, nationalism is more than we believe or perceive as a religion. I mean, you look at Islam, for instance. Islam has, of course, there's always going to be an issue of contention with certain, be it idea or religion. Comparing that to philosophy. Philosophy, on the other hand, has various areas, and all is based on the basic fundamental of ethics and rationalism behind everything that we believe to base our belief on. So, well, it depends on how we see things in the government today. That is what is going to be the basis on how we judge certain idealism or religion that we thought doesn't make sense with what we believe in or our belief system. So I think media and society plays a large role, and politics also plays a large role regarding religion in certain terms. Because if any government that exists that believes that this religion is there or is a threat to my very existence, which necessarily is not true, that religion would come out and wipe that status quo at that moment, based on how the government sees that, maybe the rationale or the motive behind it. So I think religion is there as a tool to drive us in a certain area that probably philosophy or science hasn't been able to prove. Because there are certain questions based on philosophy that would always be there. Because in the past, there's always been this argument of ethics and religion and the goal or the objective of what that religion is necessarily about. But then putting all that into perception is a light which humanity really needs to explore and really get to understand. Because religion has been there since the coming of the three major religions that we know today, or maybe believe today as the three major religions. It is out of our own terms and how we look at certain things and then give them classification. And then based on that classification, generate our, whether or not we should believe that ideology or that belief to make it suit us. Out of that, a lot of government will use that to their advantage and think, okay, well, which one among all these is going to suit our environment or is going to suit our society so that there wouldn't be conflict? Because the main problem here is whether or not that idea is necessarily going to create conflict to what we already believe in, the existing belief that whether or not is going to be a threat to that. So if there is a sign of a threat to that very existence of that culture or that society, then there's going to be an issue. And then the issue is going to raise certain walls towards that ideology that we term as dangerous to. For instance, if you look at certain governments today, powerful governments, but then they pick certain religion based on certain fundamentals, based on certain things that, well, there are these elements in that religion which make that our very existence as society a huge threat. So one way or the other, we have to get rid of these elements. Of course, yes. In every human dimension, there's elements that is always going to be at extreme point of that belief system, be it sports, be it anything that we have an extreme passion for it. We're going to get to a point where no matter what, no matter what comes out of any other area of human endeavor, be it religion, be it politics, be it whatever that we believe in, as far as that doesn't conflict with what we already have, then it's going to be considered a threat. So but I believe that religion is a light that human beings as human race need to explore and need to understand more beyond on the base value, on the face value of, oh yeah, really, Judaism or Christianity or Islam. I think there is more beneath all this than what we perceive as the very existence. I think there is more exploration that and understanding that humans has to do to really get to understand for a hope after despair. And religion creates that. It gives you the form of morals, and which I believe that there's morals in every form, but there are certain basic fundamental principles that religion has put on the table that no any other belief has ever tried to solve. I think religion has created a lot of areas of human exploration which we haven't really discovered yet. But by believing in religion alone, actually cuts that and makes it much simpler.
So I think you basically summed up the first half of the conversation and shed any light on the conversation.
Right, and we have about 4 minutes left, so if anyone would like to add to that, or say what they want to say for some last closing statements.
The word ethics was used, and you gave a lot of food for thought. And I think that was the first time we actually used the word ethics in our democracy. And I'm not sure if you're nesting ethics into religion, or are they comparable?
I don't think the religion has ethics. Because the ethic of religion is the fundamental belief of it. I mean, there are certain basic principles. I mean, they're very basic in every religion. And then these basic fundamental common grounds actually puts all religions in a certain areas, I mean certain perception, that makes it really, that puts religion in that compact form.
Yeah, I understand. So if it's fundamental, I think a lot of us, including myself, would like to know, if it's fundamental, then why is there so much conflict?
Conflict is always going to be there. I mean, there's always conflict, be it within ourselves, there's conflict, be it our very existence with our environment, there's conflict. Between us and other people, there's conflict. There's conflict of disagreement, there's conflict of ideology, there's conflict of history. So conflict is always good, but conflict alone is not how we should look at it. Because how does conflict come? A lot of times it comes out of disagreement and setting petty, tiny disagreements that creates conflict. And I think conflict is part of what makes it even really dynamic. Because without it, there won't be any dynamism regarding that. So conflict is one fundamental, basic fact that is always going to be there. Because based on that,
मुश्किल